the reason I'm here is oh, it's being recorded. If everyone's okay with that, do say if you're not okay. Continuing to be in the meeting, you're consenting to be recorded. Yes, continue. Yeah. So the reason I'm here is I'm one of those people who has done this trust the people thing, right? I'm down in North Devon, and I moved down in 2020, well, I don't know, 2018, 29, yeah, 2018. And yeah, we set up a community group, just like Trust the People talks about. And we did it all using Assemblies. And then amazingly, it was the local elections. And we sold, so, you know, maybe some of us want to run. And 9 ran, 8 got in. It's amazing. And none of them are your usual suspects at all. And as a result, it's been really interesting. They are already having a significant effect on the local council, which is generally down here in North Devon. It's very, very, very right-wing agricultural community, quite an elderly council, very, very white, very, very male. And then my gang have come in who are not the usual suspects at all, and come from very different backgrounds to the council. So they're bringing a very different story about power and how power can be managed by the community for the community. So yeah, then I got involved in Extinction Rebellion very much. I wrote the manual for People's Assemblies, and I could see this happening. It's really obvious. If you check Jem Bendel's Deep Adaptation or any of the good works around forecasts of what's going to happen to society because of the climate ecological breakdown, the communities that are already organising well together are communities that will kind of survive the transition better. So we see this as work that's very much tied in with the sort of consciousness behind Extinction Rebellion, and it's really a great experience to go through this. So what I'm going to do is just give you guys a bit of a sort of background of how it's done, and answer any questions, and there'll be a break as well, and we're going to try and get it into an hour. All right. I'm going to hand over to Jess, who's going to do us a bit of check-ins. Sorry, I've been working since 7:30 this morning. I'm going a bit Zoom blind. Sorry about that. But yeah, over to you, Jess.
No, that's great. Thank you so much for that. Really excited to hear more. There aren't that many of us in the room, so maybe we'll just do like a brief check-in and hear from everyone, if that's okay. Maybe we can just say how we are and maybe something we've enjoyed on the course, or yeah, whatever you want to share really, and maybe where you are as well. If you've not got it in your name, it'd be nice. So I'll pass to Patricia, and then if you want to just pass on to the next person, we'll go around, and then we'll hand back to Jamie when we've all said a little bit of a hello. Maybe we'll go okay. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm muted now. Hi, my name's Patricia, of course, and I'm from Milton Keynes, Buckinghamshire. Sorry, I just started the video because I was having food. There we go. I started this course about 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago, and I'd like to see it through. So this is one of the reasons why I'm here. I'm very interested in what XR are doing. And yeah, looking forward to becoming part of the Trust the People community. And can I pass on to Caroline?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm sitting in Somerset, so not too far from you, Jamie, on the border with Devon. Yeah, I've also been in the programme since the beginning and I'm enjoying it. I've been a trainer, a coach, and done a lot of that kind of stuff all my life. Moved back to the UK 7 years ago, after 32 years in Belgium. For me, I was so angry at the end of last year about Brexit that I thought, okay, I've got to do something practical. So I've joined various local community groups, Build Back Better, linked to the Green New Deal, I've become a carbon literacy trainer, just doing the accreditation. So I'm kind of trying to do something constructive in spite of all the negative going on. So that's where I am.
Thanks. Debbie, do you want to come in?
Got to say, Dave, pass on to Dave.
Hi, you can see I'm in Hartford. Very similar to Patricia. I'm a camera turned officer trying to eat my dinner at the same time. Bit of a manic day, probably the same as lots of people. Yeah, same deal. I've been in the on this course since the beginning. Didn't want to miss this session if at all possible. And same kind of thing. I'm kind of disillusioned with the way things are going. You know, I'm part of XR, and I figure out I've got to try and start to be part of the change that I would like to see in society. So yeah, hence I'm on the course. I'll pass on to Debs.
Hi, yeah, I've been in doing the course since week 1, and I'm happy to be here. I particularly enjoyed last night. It was quite enjoyable, really. I'm here same as everybody else, really, disillusioned with the government for a number of reasons, from Brexit to the climate to, well, everything. Just how everything is run. Yeah, and I'm just looking forward though, really, to spread the word on, get going with actually doing things in our own communities. And I will pass on to Alana.
I had a feeling you were going to pick me. I'm Alana. I'm from Lincolnshire. I first heard of people's assemblies and stuff, joining XR, when it November when we took the bridges, and yeah, I've just been yeah, it's just been really interesting to learn everything. Yeah, so that's why I'm here. I will pass on to Bess.
Hi guys, I'm Bess. I'm in Ilkeston. Yeah, this is a long journey. I came to this course for facilitation skills because I want to do Transition Town. I have my own eco group. I have done the climate literacy course as well, and I just wanted that support of knowing that I could do this. And I had a second thing I wanted to do. I wanted to change what was happening at work. I work in one of the biggest trusts as a doctor, and we want to set up an environmental sustainability group. And I think doing a people's assembly is one of the ways of getting that engagement within my work community as well as my home community. Oh, and I need to pass on to Luke.
Thanks, Bess. I'm here in the States, and our big group here is the 350 climate change group. I don't know if you have that in where you are in the UK. It looks like you do. XR is pretty small here, but there's a little chapter where I live. And today we're going to be marching to Chase Bank and just making a presence that we want to defund fossil fuel investment today. So I got my shirt on, and we're going to do some action today. What's been hitting me the most in my life is how often I am in a state of fight, flight, freeze, or please. That's really hitting me, and I'm just waking up to how much of a kind of a trance I live in and how much worry I experience. And I'm starting to see that there's a different way to live that is really based in a deep connection with myself and comes from overflowing love. And so I'm having a lot of big wake-up calls this year. It feels like the 3 months of 2021 have just been crazy learning. So if that keeps going, this world is going to be changing fast. Diana,
think you just unmuted.
Am I unmuted?
Try again. No, try again though, because I think you did it once. Yep, go.
Oh, weird. It says,
Oh, no. You just muted yourself again, Diana.
am I okay now?
Yeah.
Yes, don't touch that button.
It was saying mute on it. There we are. I haven't had time to think, actually. I've been so busy all day. I really need to sort of settle in a bit, I think. Yes, I've just, I belong to a group of common grounders, and we're trying to reconnect and with each other and in our community, and get the community involved in getting back that connection with our ecosystem, doing what we can to improve our ecosystem where we live. And we're getting involved with the local town council, and really I'm on this course in the hope that I'll learn how to do this more effectively. Yeah, and I've just taken the dog for a walk and got into a really long conversation with somebody who knows the whole history of my town and told me. And it was very interesting, but it meant that I had to rush home and start this. So sorry, this is where I am.
No, don't worry, that's great.
Can I pass on to Bess? Oh no, Bess has already been, sorry. Jamie?
I've already been as well. I started it.
Oh,
I
sorry,
myself.
who hasn't been? Who
You're
hasn't
okay.
been?
Neil hasn't been. Debbie
Oh, okay,
hasn't
Neil.
been.
Let me pass on to
Daniel.
Neil.
Thanks everyone for your checks in. So I'm from XR into TTP, just about coming around for my first anniversary. I'm actually in South Africa, so I live the community development work through you guys. You're my inspiration. And yeah, we're afflicted. I resonate completely with what Luke was saying, expressed it so well. And it's sessions like this that I find so motivating, because it's the alternative to where we go if we do nothing. So, so that's me, and that's why I love to be here all the time. Daniela.
Hi, everyone. I'm a bit on the go now. Thank you, Neil. I am also from TTP. I recently joined the volunteering group. So, and this is actually my first session. I've been doing at the beginning a lot of work on the technical side, but actually I'm very interested in all the sessions. So I said, yeah, then let me join one. So it's really good to be here and yeah, participate in sessions as well. I think, Jess, have you been?
No, but someone's at the door, so I'm going to pass to Debbie.
Ah, cool. Sorry. Yeah, great.
Hiya, I'm Debbie Davis. I live in Lancashire, just outside Preston. I've been doing the course since the beginning and really enjoying it. And especially meeting so many people that are kind of on the same page and that are also fed up with the way things are and are positive about making a change. So yeah, it's been really good and really eye-opening for me.
Thank you, I'm back. The census person came by. Okay, thanks everyone. It's so nice to hear that people have had like incredibly busy days and have been like really like had so much on, but then still like arrived into this space and are giving this the time. I think that's like really special, so thank you so much. I'm doing pretty good other than can't breathe through my nose, and I'm back in London, which I have mixed feelings about, but I've had some nice time away. So anyway, I can't complain. Thanks so much. And I'll pass back to Jamie.
Okay.
Lost you, Jamie.
Sorry, did you say you're passing on to me, Jess? I missed that last bit.
Yeah, I think that's everyone, right?
Rock and roll. Yeah, listen, there's a great energy. This is amazing, you know, because I remember when TTP started, it's really cool to hear what everyone's saying and that people are enjoying the course and that people are getting into it. And also, thanks, Luke, very much for sort of touching on the deeper emotional side of this work that comes through XR. Yeah, this is the only movement that shares grief as a really important part of what we're doing, right? So when XR started, you know, it's not like some weird Harry, you know, it's not like a weird culty thing, but we had some pretty heavy sobbing sessions, particularly young women. This is one I'll never forget. A young woman saying, I'm 21 and I've looked at the science. Every cell in my body wants to have children, but I can't, can I? Which just destroyed us. And I since a kid, I've never done this, where I was holding onto the table and I was sobbing with heaves, all of us. So sharing this grief is vital. And then you build from there. And there's so much positivity about what we can do. And the trust the people aspect of it, as I said at the beginning, is really crucial because this is how we work in communities, okay? This is not about blocking streets. It's not about focusing on the climate and ecological emergency. It's about what can we do as a community to prepare? What can we do as a community to open up our perspectives so that we can learn to work together? So I'm going to share a bunch of stories with you. And one of them is, I'm going to start with this, right? It's not my block off. You will never forget this name. Her name is Panthea Lee. All right, Panthea Lee. And you can find her article. It's easy, right? She wrote an article on Medium. She's a really famous full-on Asian American activist. And she wrote a piece after Capitol Hill, the invasion of Capitol Hill by the Trump supporters. And, you know, she's a really well-known activist, so she goes to loads of bloody meetings, right? High-level activist meetings. Anyway, after the Capitol Hill invasion, at all the meetings that she went to, high-level activists, all of them, everyone was saying the same thing. Everyone was saying, those Trump supporters, they're idiots. I can't believe people can be so stupid. And that man wearing Camp Auschwitz, I wouldn't even be in the same room as that pig. And the vast majority of these activists are white and privileged people, right? Every meeting she said, you've all got this so wrong. I'm an Asian American. I completely understand what oppression is like, but I'm telling you now, not only would I want to be in the same room as that man who wore the Camp Auschwitz shirt, I would gladly sit in that room and listen for as long as it takes with humility until I understand what journey has taken him to wear a shirt that says Camp Auschwitz. And unless you understand why that is essential to the revolution, you ain't in it. So it's a really big deal. And this really relates to what we're talking about today and how we work in communities. We've got no time left, folks. It's not about getting together with like-minded people. It's about everybody getting together. It's about everybody having, with all the different opinions, us finding common ground. As someone said, they're part of the common ground movement. We have to find common ground. The movement I've set up down here is called Torridge Common Ground. I'm not saying embrace racists. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is we have to hear everyone's stories to the full and find where we can meet. We are being more divided and polarized than ever in history because of social media. And it's an absolute strategy to divide populations like this. So that's a big deal point that I want you to take on board. And I'm telling you now, the rewards from being able to sit down, for us to sit down with the most right-wing Freemasonry, climate change denying, elderly, angry man, for us to be sitting down with this guy, I won't name him because we're recording, but you know, we started meeting with him He's the most different person to our mindset you can imagine. And yet we finally built bridges, and it's huge. The effect it's having on him is huge. And the people who think like him, we're now being able to communicate with, all right? Okay, let's talk about the assemblies. That's the main thing that they want me to talk to you about today. And I'm going to go for only 30 minutes, and then we can do some questions. We're going to try and keep it tight, right? So I started at 1920, right? So let's do 1920, just so I know what I'm doing, right? So I moved down here. I was having I was having a rubbish time actually. My dad died, my brother died. I ended an 11-year relationship, and I suddenly moved from London down here to North Devon, where I didn't know anyone except one person, right? And it was just like, oh bloody hell! But I always do this thing, which is, this thing: act local, think global. So wherever I move, I get something going in the community. So I held a meeting down here with the local community, saying, look, there's this movement. It's the least sexy name for a movement in history. The movement is called New Municipalism, all right? But it's working everywhere. And it's basically people organizing, coming together and putting their own people into local power, all right? It's called New Municipalism. It started mainly in Spain in 2014, but in Frome, so I can't remember who's from Somerset here, but in the lovely Frome, right? We have a sort of flat pack democracy gang. I'm sure you all know about them by now, right? Yeah. So in 2014, it happened around the world. In Spain, a big time in Spain. They took over Madrid, Valencia, Barcelona, famously, about 20 or 30 towns and cities across Spain. And it opened up globally. So I gave a talk when I moved down here to the community saying, look, this is what we can do. This is what communities are doing around the country, around the world. And so, you start like that, and people came along to the next meetings. And I said, well, look, the way that we do this, you use something called another very unsexy name, right? Participatory democracy assemblies, all right? And, we often shorten them to calling them people's assemblies. But a little tip here, folks, I wouldn't, if you're working with a community, I wouldn't even call them assemblies, call them meetups, all right? Because some guy here from the community, he said, well, the last time I went to assembly, I was 12 and it was the headmaster's assembly. That's what I associate the word assembly with. He's got a point, man. Meetups is a little bit warmer. So you start your assemblies. Now, the power, and please do read the manual that I wrote for Extinction Rebellion. If you haven't read it, I'm really proud of it. I involved people from Senegal, people from Spain, people from the Occupy movement, Greeks, bloody everybody, right? I brought all these experts together to write that manual. But, some of the stuff I added through my own experience. And the thing that is a magic trick is what I call testify. We all are desperate to talk. We're all desperate to be heard. We're all frightened. Look at what everyone has just said in their intros. And yet we only share that, in a crass way on social media or just amongst our few friends and families. But I'm telling you now, if you set up an assembly in the right way, and the right way means no one feels vulnerable, no voices dominate, everybody heard equally. If people feel safe, when you start, okay, so look, for the next, 20 minutes, come on up, anybody, 2 minutes, strictly 2 minutes only, and come up here and take the mic. Just tell us what's getting under your skin. That's the phrase I usually use. What's getting under your skin? You do this right, I guarantee within 3-4 people maximum, you're crying. I'm not kidding, you're crying. We're all crying out for a better world, and we're all suffering because it's not here. And when people feel safe, they open up in ways that are so moving. So one that stuck out locally, so I started running loads of assemblies down here. We run about 40 or 50 in a year. No, that's an exaggeration, about 30 to 40. And you start like this. So people come up and they take the mic. And one of them that stuck out, we had a mum who took it first. She just, I love my children and I know climate change is coming, climate breakdown, I understand that. And it's definitely not all about environment, by the way. she started, but then a 19-year-old came up, and he took the mic. Look, I'm 19, okay, folks? I'm 19. And already 3 of my friends have committed suicide. This is what's happening. 3 of my friends have committed suicide, and I'm 19. We've got to do something. My generation have been torn apart. So you have that happen. And then you have a mum, a grandmother who comes up and same thing, I'm so frightened for my children. And then a 15-year-old came up and he said, I would not feel the strength to come and speak, but it's because of that other young guy, that 19-year-old, I feel I can take the mic. And I'm only 15 and 2 of my friends have committed suicide. So people, when they start opening up and being so, speaking their soul, they feel safe to do so, then everyone starts doing it. And it's pretty much one of the most moving human experiences I've ever had. But what it does is it creates an extraordinary atmosphere. Number one, nobody's running the show here. There are no leaders. Number two, the power of this movement is the power of listening respectfully, allowing people to be vulnerable, allowing people to share, not judging. And number three, this is not political, folks. This is not a political campaign, not in your normal sense, is it? This is about what it means to be human. We are human beings being human. All of these things start to spread and create the atmosphere if you start with this sort of session, which I call testify. But be strict on 2 minutes and be careful how you set it up. You know, don't let some bloke go on for 10 minutes reading some poem he's written. No, keep it really neat. So we started doing those assemblies. We would start with them, and then, you know, I mean, I'm sure you've seen this. You know, if someone agrees, you go like that, right? It feels weird, but it is actually incredibly effective, because if someone says something and then the whole room just goes, there's a forest of hands. It's a very immediate psychological effect on everybody. What that person's just said, that's driving to the soul of everybody in the room. All right, so it's a really powerful way of aggregating sort of emotional consensus. So you have your testify, and then what we would usually do is, right, so break out into groups. So you have your breakout groups, and in your breakout groups, how are we going to change the community? What do we need to change in the community, and how are we going to do it? This is great, man. You go around those breakout groups. The magic number is 8, by the way. And in that 8, one is a note taker, the other one is the facilitator, all right? And in those groups of 8, everybody has a really strong opinion about what they want to see change in their community. And once people realize they're being taken seriously and listened to, they really, really go for it. Everybody from, someone in their early teens to someone in their 80s. Everybody's being heard equally, and they've been listened to and taken seriously. It's been noted, all right? So you let that run for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes, the note taker feeds back to the breakout group. All right, these are the main points that you've all said. Do you agree? And then when everyone says, yeah, or it's almost, oh, no, you forgot that thing. That was important. Everybody liked that bit. And so then everyone agrees on the note taker, all right? So then that's usually 25 minutes, about half an hour. And then the note takers go to the front of the assembly and they read out the main bullet points from their breakout group. And there is an overall note taker who's watching the whole assembly. And so when the note taker from the breakout group is reading out their main points, if there's a forest of hands, then we get a feeling, wow, that's really well received. So the overall note taker is making a note of that. The point about the notes is, well, there's the obvious one. You need a record of what's going down, right? But the other thing is then that gets put up on your Facebook page or your website or whatever. So people can come to a meeting and then they can go home and let's say the next morning, yeah, I said that. Look, that's on the website. I said that bit. So it's very important that people know that this is going somewhere. It's very important that people know that they are being listened to equally. No voices are dominating, everybody being respected equally, all right? A good phrase you might want to use, by the way, is we accept all people, but not all behaviors. Okay, if you want to keep this a sort of environment that's safe so that people who feel vulnerable feel okay to talk, you don't want anyone who's got aggressive behavior, obviously. You don't want anyone who's drunk. You don't want people who are going to disrupt and make people feel nervous or vulnerable. So a fair way of doing that is to say that we accept all people, but not all behaviors. Also, radical inclusivity. So that's one of the main things that I wrote about, and that's really important. You know, it's fantastic to see that Trust the People is mainly women who are interested in pursuing this way of taking back local power for the community. It's mainly women, right? So you don't hold an assembly if there's no creche, if there's no ability for a mother to bring her children, and so that there's someone who's accredited and visible who you can leave the children with. So we always would have a creche in the corner, all right, with loads of toys, you know, made it look really nice. And so mums could come. Radical inclusivity means you have to have disabled access. Radical inclusivity means, you know, you'll find quite a lot of elderly people are into this. So, you know, make sure they're at the front. You know, when you start, can you hear me? Can you hear me at the back? That's actually a really important question, because there's a lot of elderly people going, "Aye." So it's important to make sure that they can hear. You use amplification, or you bring them up the front. Make sure that they know that they're included, right? Okay, so here's a useful story. I ran about 80 assemblies at Occupy London 10 years ago. And that was outside St. Paul's Cathedral. So we had a hell of a backdrop, right? And the biggest assemblies were 3,500 people, right? And here's an important lesson. So, you know, people would come up and take the mic, that everyone had 2 minutes, always strict with the 2 minutes thing, all right? And someone would come up and they're, you know, they've got a degree in politics and they write for The Guardian or whatever, yeah? And they speak for 2 minutes. You know, and they say some good points. They're very confident speakers, very educated speakers, you know? And they say some good points, you know, and so a couple of people might put their hands up like this, you know? And then my friend Tammy would take the mic. Tammy's got Lambert and Butler in one hand and the mic in the other. She's got 5 kids. She spent half her life in hostels. She's the opposite of privileged. But when Tammy spoke, the air cracked. There was this just forest of love, because she wasn't speaking highly educated, confident, erudite stuff. She was speaking visceral politics. She's speaking from her heart, her soul, and it blew everyone away, okay? Can you hear me okay, folks? Am I going a bit slow, or is it all right? Yeah? Okay, cool.
Well, it wasn't until
So
then.
that's always very important. You'll find, of course, there will be, sorry? What?
It was going really well, and then as soon as you said that, it had a little pause. But you're okay now. Carry on.
I'm gonna put the phone in the window, slightly better signal. So with communities, you'll find that there's loads of Tammys. Tammy is the power. The power is the people who felt like they had no agency, who find their agency. They are the bomb. Hands down, man, hands down, they're the bomb, all right? So here in Torridge Common Ground, one of our councillors, she's ex-homeless herself. She's a young mum of 2. So the only reason she's with us is because we had a creche. She said, I've always wanted to come to things like that, but no one ever gives a toss about the situation a mum is in, you know? So she came because we had a creche, and she stayed because we listened. And she's become a counsellor now. She's ex-homeless herself. She works for a homeless charity now, okay? She didn't have any further education, had her kids quite young. But man, when she talks, she sets the room on fire. Some of you have seen her, Kay Korf, her name is. I know that Neil has, and I think you have, Jess, as well. Kekov, right? She sets the room on fire because she's not doing any intellectual jousting. We don't have time for intellectual jousting. What makes a movement happen is, or what makes a great speech work, is when people walk away, it's not that they remember what you said, they remember what you made them feel. Okay, so there's a big advantage to people who aren't highly educated, confident speakers. Because the people who aren't highly educated, confident speakers, they're just speaking visceral, they're speaking my soul, my life, all right? And that reaches out to everybody. Okay, so Panthea Lee, Occupied Tammy, right, so the main focus of the talk, and I've got 10 minutes left, so the main focus of the talk is to tell you about how to run assemblies. I've given you the feel of it. I'll give you a couple more pointers, but please do you use the Extinction Rebellion manual for people's assemblies. But there's some other important stuff, yeah? When you advertise them, okay, create your flyers, and on one side of your flyers, on this side, write down like 5 or 6 things that community groups like this have succeeded in doing across the country. There's loads of good examples. Okay, you can use Froome, but there's lots of other examples too of community groups like this across the country who have done really cool stuff because they were led by the community for the community. So have a list, 5 or 6 on this side of the flyer. And on this side, you know, that's your invitation. Like I say, I'll be careful of the language assembly. You use very straightforward language. You know, we're all really interested in coming together, working together, so that we can have a council in the future that's run by the community for the community. We are defiantly non-party political. Everybody is welcome. That line alone is huge. Everybody wants that now. Everybody is sick of government, of Tories, of Labour, of the whole party political system. It's not helping anybody. And in local communities, you know, what's important is that we come together. It doesn't matter about your differences. They're nothing compared to your similarities. So it's important to underline that idea. We are non-party political. We don't do party politics, all right? So simple language, examples on one side, colourful, okay? And, you know, because of coronavirus, I mean, what we used to do is do them in the high street, but because of coronavirus, what you can do is put them underneath people's windscreen wipers, okay? Roger's, I don't know how involved Roger is in this, but Roger Hallam was talking about a group up north. What they're doing is with sellotape, they are sellotaping flyers to people's front doors, right, rather than pushing it through the front door. And of course, you can use your social media, but always use examples of what you can succeed in and simple language to describe what's going to happen. We want to listen. This is based on listening. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to listen to what you think. All this kind of language is really, really vital. Okay. All right, let's just look at this. Alana on the bridges, first assembly, don't call them assemblies, Panthea Lee. Right, okay, so the tyranny of agreement. It's a tyranny. The whole idea of I'm completely correct and therefore you're all completely wrong. That's just a strange conceit of modern European thinking. It's not real. So to underpin your assemblies, you need to have a welcoming to a multitude of opinions and points of view. You know, Panthea is dead right. She wants to be in the room with that man who had Camp Auschwitz and listen to him with humility to understand what life he had to lead him to wear it. All right. So it's really important to kind of underpin everything you're doing with this openness. We're not here because we think we've got all the answers. We're here because we need to work together and everyone will be listened to equally. It's really important. You know, the famous saying is, we used to wear this We used to wear this in Occupy London, these badges, and they say, old man's eyes. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it, all right? That was Aristotle, but that's where it's at, right? It's not only a mark of an educated mind, it's actually the recipe to us all working together, okay? Right, so that's what the underpinning thing is. And then I wanted to talk about feminization of politics. Right, so one of the, again, it's in the, I'm pretty sure I put it into the manual as well. So a lot of people understand feminization of politics to mean more women in power. That's not the whole story. What it is changing the way that power is done, right? So yes, more women coming into power, but also them and with their male colleagues, changing the way that power is done. Now, it took me a while to get my head round it. And I went over to Spain in 2017 and I worked with the Spanish crew that, you know, did all this stuff, right? The radical municipalists. What is it, feminization politics? Just give me a picture, man. Tell me, Bernardo, what does it look like? And he went, I'm really glad you asked. I've got a perfect example of it. On Tuesday, the mayor of Madrid, so the capital of bloody Spain, one of ours was the mayor, right? Manuela Carmena, her name was. And Bernardo, my friend, right, he was the note taker. And there was this big meeting with the mayor and all the powerful figures of Madrid. And she makes everyone meet in circles. No one sits above, right? But they were all going around discussing, what are we going to do about Uber? And all of the, Bernardo said it's really amazing because it's almost all men. And he said almost all of them, they were third, fourth generation from families that traditionally have held all the power in Madrid, right? And they all spoke, they would stand up and what I think is, la, 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 right? And then they went all the way around and then it was just the mayor. Manuela, mayoress, we haven't heard from you. What do you think we should do about Uber? And Bernardo said, I then heard the three words that you never hear in politics and it was magic. Because Manuela stood up and went, I don't know. And neither do any of you. You've all just given your pontificating ego opinions, but until we have a 360-degree understanding of this issue, until we've spoken to taxi drivers and Uber drivers, to passengers, to experts, to people who know about road markings, until we have the whole 360-degree understanding of the issue, no one in this room knows. I'm the only one who's honest. The rest of you are all pretending you know, but you don't. So what I'm getting at is the feminization of politics is a totally different approach to how power is done. There's none of this sort of testosterone jostling to win bollocks. We all have to be in this together and learn together and have the humility to know when you don't know. All right, so the feminization of politics is getting into power and changing the way that power is done so that everybody is brought in, radical inclusivity. Okay, so that everyone is working together and scrutinizing together. There's no jostling for all this, you know, testosterone power. Okay, so those are the main points that I wanted to make around how you can how assemblies can be totally central to the way you build, right? Like I say, we ran something like 40 assemblies in a year. Out of the blue, just shed loads of people got involved, and you know, like I said, 9 candidates run, eight got in. The ninth guy, he missed by 5 votes, but everyone, we just came from nowhere, right? We did it all in like 8 months. We only existed for 8 months, and then we took power, right? So it's really doable. My advice, and then this is my last point, I will shut up. My advice is this: get a good gang, man. Don't do this on your own. Get a good gang, okay? Half a dozen people who are really dedicated, and then, you know, and the backup gang of 20, right? Get a good gang. One thing is, it's hard. If only 1 or 2 or 3 candidates get in, if you don't take the whole council, then it's tough, all right? Don't pretend it's not. It's tough work. and it's not friendly. They don't hold your hand and lead you through it. So it's important to get a good gang, all right, and get as many of you in as possible, and stay tight, have each other's backs. Yeah. All right. That is me done half an hour. 20, what was it? 25 past, 35, 45. Yeah, it's about half an hour, whatever. So hit me with questions, folks. Or Jess, what are you laughing at, Jess?
Because I'm just like really speechless, and it doesn't happen very often.
Oh, cool. I'll take that. Your speechless as in that went okay.
It's so good. I'm so blown away by your like passion, and just like it's really incredible.
Oh,
I feel like I've got this power in my body to like change the world or something. I feel like it's really amazing what you just brought. Thank you so much.
Oh, mate, we're all crew. It's an honor. We're all crew, mate. Thanks for that. Is your manual the community assembly manual? No, it's so if you go to Extinction Rebellion and put in People's Assembly Manual, Jess and Neil will dig it out for you. It's easy. Alana's got it, yeah.
She's got it on Zoom.
Rock and roll, rock and roll. Yes, yeah, there you go. Luke, hit me.
All right, well, I'm with Jess. I thought that was great. I love the energy. And I'm thinking about the idea you're kind of proposing sounds like to really take over the council or the local government. Was that correct? Okay. And so that's something each of us can do wherever we live, just like in your footsteps. And then once you've kind of gotten elected, however you manage that, then you're maybe creating these meetups under sort of that People's Assembly method or something. Like once you get into government, how does that really work?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, man. So what you can do so the councillors that we've got in, they have started creating proposals for assemblies to be the way that council operates, okay? But because I've only got a few councillors in, it's very hard for them to push the council, the main part of the council, because the main part of the council are elderly, sort of middle-aged, middle-class old men. You know, it's just, they've never heard of stuff like this, right? So what we do is we hold our own assemblies outside of the council, in big community buildings, or at the moment we have, you know, big assemblies every week on Zoom, right? So you just keep building your community movement using assemblies, okay? But when you have enough power in council itself, yeah, start to employ this form of participatory democracy in council, which is crucial. You know, the Spanish got really good at it, right? You want to look up, I'll just write this down in chat very quickly. Just these two words, right? Fearless cities, right? So if you investigate that sometime, you'll find their website, and they started to aggregate really brilliant information about what happens when you get into power as well. But what was interesting about the Spanish was, you know, Manuela Carmena, man, she became the mayor of the bloody capital of Spain, but she still went to 2 people's assemblies in the streets a week. At the height of this movement, there were 80 assemblies a week in Madrid alone, because people realize you can use this to, you know, how are we going to look after the kids in the neighborhood? Well, let's have an assembly and talk about it. You can use this as a tool. It's a collective decision-making tool. All right. And the secret is to facilitate it so that no voices dominate, all voices equal. You must always ensure that those who are vulnerable feel safe to speak. It's highly important. All right. You know, a very good facilitator will look, and if someone hasn't put their finger up to speak yet at all, and they put their finger up, then yeah, they'll jump the stack. You welcome in straight away. Okay. Or if someone hasn't spoken the whole time, a facilitator may pause at some time and say, you know, Jess, I see that you haven't spoken. I just want to make sure that if you feel that you want to speak, you're really, really welcome to. Of course, you can stay silent I'm not saying you have to speak. I want to make sure that you know that you can if you want to, right? So always bringing in every voice, because I'll tell you now, man, the first voice to speak, the confident, cocky voice, it's not always that handy. I mean, they're running the bloody government, right? They're not that good at it, yeah? And then you get someone who hasn't spoken the whole time and she puts her finger up near the end, you know, and you pass the mic to her and she just says something where everyone goes, man, hallelujah, you know? And so those quiet, vulnerable voices, we're not just ticking a box, you know, like, so we're all goody-goody, make sure that, you know, you get heard if you're vulnerable. No, you're a weapon, man. If you're someone who feels very vulnerable, you have very low sense of agency. When you find your agency, you are the bomb. So you actively look for these people. Okay. You'll get loads out of Fearless Cities, Luke. Anyone else? Yeah, Jess.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the testify bit a little bit. So say if there's like a couple, like, I don't know, 80 people at the assembly and, you know, you're saying 20 minutes and then you get 2 minutes each. What if there are like way more than 10 people who like want to share in the testify bit? Like, is it just, how do you pick? And like, I don't know, it's just a bit random, but I don't know, it's a bit tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because that's a question that comes from picturing it in your head and working out what the sort of difficulties may be. So it's what, you know, you don't have to call it this, but there's what we call a stack. So people come up. If you want to speak, if you want to speak for 2 minutes, please come up and wait here. So basically there's a queue. And you go, before anyone's spoken, you say, look, we've got 20 minutes for this, right? So there'll be a queue and it's first come, first served. It's only 2 minutes. And, you know, when it comes to 20 minutes, that's it, I'm sorry. But then the people who are queuing up in the stack who don't get to speak, they'll be, you know, you can be sure that when we do it next week, they're going to make sure that they're in that queue at the beginning, all right? You can cover quite a lot, but yeah, never change the times, you know, like, oh, that man, let him talk for 5 minutes, you know, because he's so bloody important. Never do that. Strictly 2 minutes, and strictly keep it to what you said. So we're doing this for 20 minutes, or we're doing this for half an hour, all right? Yeah, good question. Very good practical question. Welcome. Yes, Dave.
Is there like a maximum time that you want to try and, you know, keep people's assembly to? That's my first question. Sorry if I go for 2 questions while I'm talking to you. And also, when you
tell me the second one. Yeah,
your people went for the council elections, how did they present themselves? I mean, were they sort of a unified group, etc., or and did they have like particular issues that were particular to their individual wards or whatever, you know, was the bit that they were going to represent?
Yeah, okay, both really important questions. So I've done I don't know, about 250, about 300 assemblies, if not more now, right? 2 hours is it. 2 hours is the perfect time, all right? You can keep things really alive and hot and vibrant for 2 hours. After then, it's quite difficult. Also, when you're doing your assemblies, have some greeters. Some of your gang greet people, right? Don't greet them and then shove them up against the wall and get their email address off them. Greet them, say, look, oh, thanks so much for coming. How did you find out about us? This is brilliant. Have you been before? Do you know what's going to happen? But do you want a cup of tea? We've got tea and biscuits. Always have tea and biscuits, right? And the same people who do the greeting at the beginning, be outside at the end with your clipboards. So you're not hassling people, but you know, you're standing outside and going, if we haven't got your email address and you're interested in finding out more, let me take down your details. And when you take down their details, right, and this is really when you get slick, right? You take down their details, and if they're willing, share their phone number as well as their email address, right? Your team need to ideally phone that person within 24 hours, okay? Ideally phone, if not email, and make it personal. It was so good that you came, you know, and what did you think about it? Are you going to come back? Do you want us to help? Do you want to know any more? Have you got any more questions? Really lovely, personal, targeted phone calls or emails to each person who signed up. within 24 hours or 48 hours, right? And then they go, this is a seriously organized group. So second question. So our ticket that we ran on, first of all, we were independents, right? So they all ran as independents, but independents from the community organisation, Torridge Common Ground, right? And we all ran on one ticket, which was the same. Well, whatever ward they were in, they're saying, we are all about listening, and we have been listening to you for a year. And we know that your main concerns are youth mental health, unemployment, second homes, climate change. You know, so you're showing that you've listened, because I'm telling you now, that's a huge difference. People are used to political characters saying, hi, vote for me, because I'm going to tell you what you should think about. I'm going to tell you, I know what you should consider as an important issue. That's bollocks. What you want is a candidate saying, I have been listening to you and I know what your key issues are. And that's how we operate. We're going to be run by the community for the community. Yeah, it's a big difference. And then, as you said, Dave, yeah, you can narrow it down to, if you're in a particular ward and you know we held an assembly in that ward and everybody was pissed off about a particular housing development, you can say, you know, I've listened and I know that everyone in here is really concerned about that development. So that's one of the things that I'll look into. I also know that people in this ward in particular, you're really concerned about the fact that there are no safe spaces for women. You know, at the moment we're doing a project after the horror of Sarah Everard. You know, our female councillors have got together and we're running a campaign to get safe spaces for women, safe spaces for young people with mental health issues in the community. So again, you show that you've listened to the community and that you are responding to what they've said, right? So in a way, the issues that you run on, they tell you what they are. It's from listening to the community. This is what works, man. All right, disco soup, just quickly. So disco soup. So look, once you get into this world, right, talk to as many people in different groups as possible, because, man, the creativity blows you away, right? So I was working with a group recently. This guy, right, he's like a really big, mouthy northerner, right? Big, bold, or old guy is a dude, right? And he was going, what? I won't try and do his accent. He said, listen, this is great, right? We're doing disco soup, right? And what they do is they dress up in stupid disco glitzy clothes, right? And they all come together in the community and spend the day making shitloads of soup. So chopping up carrots and parsnips, all this stuff, but while listening to really crap disco. So, you know, it's just such good fun, man. And it's brilliant, you know, and then they all serve the soup while listening to crap disco, while dressed like idiots, and everyone loves it. All right. So that's a brilliant one, disco soup. And again, we'll be able to start doing stuff like this again soon, right? And the other one I got from another gang recently, which is just, you see, youth are the key. Youth think you don't even know they exist, because try being 15 right now, yeah? So they think you don't even exist. So with them, if you start not only listening to them, but taking them really seriously and valuing them and acting on what they say, they're in, man. And then that's your social media sorted, by the way. But anyway, there's one bunch of young people who, what they did was they created an award ceremony. And they made up what the events would be. Best dog walker, all right? Best dinner lady, all right? They had these amazing, and what you got was a blue plaque put on your house. Okay, so Joan Marpleson lives here, voted best dinner lady 2019, you know? And they had the awards ceremony and the kids gave them medals. You know, it's beautiful. They're just valuing people who don't get valued, you know, and it was their idea. So the creativity aspect is huge. I mean, look, I'm telling you now, agreement is a form of tyranny. And when you find yourself finding a conversation difficult, someone's coming from a point of view you've never heard before, or young people are talking about stuff that you can't get your head around, that's a gift. It's a gift, you know? So this whole thing about, yeah, we're very inclusive to children, and you tick that box, you know, or we're completely accessible for disabled people, and you tick that box. This is nothing to do with ticking a box. Like I said, this is about realizing these are your strongest people. The people who are being excluded are your strongest people, you know? Okay. Any other questions? Look, we've been going for an hour and 2 minutes. Anyone would think we're a tight organization. Okay, well, I'll give you another one then. Elderly people and young people, getting them to work together. It's a beautiful thing. So here's a good example. In King's Cross with this community project years ago, you're talking to the elderly people and they've got a big problem. They're terrified of the young people in their hoods. Oh, they're really frightening. Okay, so you start meeting with the elderly people and you start meeting with the young people. Young people, what do you want? What do you want? What's missing? So it's a really working class area. Everyone's unemployed. No one's got any money. And the kids are going, we want to go to gyms. Yeah, we want to work out, be buff. All right. Okay, so you work a deal with the local businesses. There's some big office blocks there and they have their own gyms. So businesses want to look good to the community. So you negotiate with the businesses. Will you open the gym to the local children for an hour a week, an hour a day, when all your work, when it's your quietest hour? And we'll make sure that we put your name on all our posters. And of course, the local business go, yeah, sure. Right, so that's the kids. The kids have said something they want and they've got it. You've listened and you've acted on it, right? Okay, so kids, old people, kids, old people. Kids, what do you like about the old people? Oh, they're just old, moody, old, don't like them at all. Now, it must be something that you like. So look at problems as opportunities. Look at the kind of different groups in your community. Where do they join? And be creative. I guess that's the point I'm making. God, my signal is so bad. I don't know if you can hear me.
It's great.
All right,
cool. Great. I think Luke has a point. I was going to ask, I don't think we're short on time, but did anyone who hasn't spoken yet want to ask anything or say anything before we take a second point?
Okay, Luke, hold that thought for a minute. I can't see all the faces, so if anyone hasn't spoken at all who wants to speak, let us know. Let Jess know, because Jess, I assume you can see everyone, can you?
Yeah, I think everyone's good. So Luke, go ahead.
Luke, take it away, Daddy-O.
Thanks, Jamie. Does TTP and what you're doing, do you work together?
When TTP set up, I helped them set up, and they came down here. Right, Luke, and gave me a load of wine, and then talked to me all night and recorded it without telling me. Luckily, I didn't swear too much and everything, but they built quite a lot on it. I'm working on my local community here, and then a major different project. So I support TTP when I can. But I help them build it at the beginning. But look at what they've done. This is so cool, man. I'm so impressed, right? Was that the question, Luke?
Yeah, you got it.
All right, cool, man.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're kind of starting your own organization or something where you are and trying to spread it or something like that. And TTP is doing something similar.
Yeah, listen, actually, you've brought up something that's really cool. So the Spanish talked about feminization of politics, right? And they talked about proximity, which even when you get in power, you still come to the bloody assemblies, man. Don't disappear up your ivory tower and forget everybody. So proximity, you always stay close to your community. But the third one is what Luke's just reminded me of, confluence. Find the groups, you're not in competition. Find the groups on the same page as you. Find the groups who are seeking to achieve the same things as you and flow with them. All right, so So, you know, my group here, Tories Common Ground, we are reaching out to other community groups that are doing the same thing. We're reaching out to councillors on the same page as us. We're not precious. So it's important to, wherever possible, flow with similar groups. All right. This whole idea of no, you know, everyone follow us and, you know, forget about everyone else. That's bollocks. It's not going to help us. We haven't got any time left, right? It's all about finding similar thinking people and groups and flow with them. You know, they don't have to join your group, doesn't matter, but work together because we've got so little time left. Do you know what's really good about having a bad signal, right? Jess, you were frozen like this with a really lovely laughing smile. Wicked. Anyway, okay, so look, we've been an hour and 10. What can we do? Should we say goodbye? Toodaloo? Love you and leave you, or what? Neil, maybe you can help me, or Jess.
Jamie, thanks for another inspirational. It's like having your tires pumped up. It really is. I wanted to throw in. You probably know Lolly from Froome, also a flat pack. She was telling us earlier this week that last weekend she went to Bristol for a protest, and it's against the policing and everything. And she found herself next to a guy who was wearing an anti-vax t-shirt, and he didn't have a mask on. And he turned to her and he said, "You don't have to wear your mask, you know." And she thought, no, I don't want to be here, you know, if this is what this is all about. But later on, they sort of moved apart. And when it started to get a bit tense, she knew this guy was looking out for her. She knew it. So there was a bond. And I think she's ready to listen to what that guy's got to say, and the reverse, you know. And when you say look out for people or work with people who are on the same train, sometimes you don't know why they're on the same train, but they are, because crises like this bring people together.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's exactly what Panthea Lear is talking about, right? And that means that you're going to get so much more from developing a relationship with someone who has very opposing views to you. You're going to get much more from that, and it's going to be a much more richer communication than, you know, just talking to like-minded people. We also have to completely spread. And the way to do that, by the way, is to learn not to be judged, to learn not to judge. And the way to learn not to judge is to remember that we don't know that much, really. You know, I'm not saying embrace, you know, so look, if you're going to be sitting down with someone who is an extreme racist, I'm not saying, oh, well, you know, I'll just have to understand that. No, totally not. But what I'm saying is that person has been on a journey to get there, right? And it's important to hear that journey. It doesn't mean that you're kind of going, yeah, racism's great. That's not the point. And I guarantee that actually what happens is when we have worked with people who come from the far right, which I have done in the past, right? What really freaks them out is that you're listening respectfully. That freaks them out, right? And then secondly, if you listen for long enough, there'll be a story. There'll be a story that's to do with pain or trauma that has led to hatred or fear, okay? And once they start undoing that story, more is being undone because you're not judging them, you're just letting them tell that story. And I've seen some extraordinary stuff change in people's lives because of listening. The best example was a guy called Steve Barron, who started turning up at Occupy, and he was a really frightening looking bloke, right? And he went to all the assemblies and then came and found me and said, look, I've been following this, mate, and I need to make a confession. And the confession is that I'm a member of the English Defence League, right? So that's like a Nazi outfit, a fascist outfit. And I've been listening to you guys, man, and we've been lied to. You know, we've been given this enemy. We've been told it's the immigrants' fault, it's the Jewish fault, it's the commies' fault, it's gay people's fault. We've been lied to, and you guys are right. And I'm going to go back to all the EDL meetings in Essex, and I'm going to tell the EDL they're wrong, man. And he made that a proposal at the Assembly, and everyone was going, Well, okay, but you know, good luck. And he went to 6 meetings. He was beaten up twice, but he told his story. He said, those kids are right. It's the economic system. It's the 1%. That's what's screwing us up. All this bollocks that we blaming people of color, blaming immigrants, blaming gay people. We're full of shit. We're wrong. And it's because we listened, you know, he listened to us a lot and we listened to him, right? That he found the strength to go back and do that, right? This is what has to happen. We're all polarized. We need to come together, and that's going to take a lot of courage and the ability not to judge. Okay. Everyone is frozen, so it's really weird. I'm so sorry. It must be the signal or something.
It's okay. We can hear you well. I think Carolyn has a point, and then you start wrapping up after that if you like.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, because I've done a lot of organizational development, and through all the organizational development, and I worked a lot with Scandinavian companies across Europe, so you kind of have that kind of value system behind the work. But it was always engage with the opposite, engage with the person who is completely the opposite to you, because they are going to see something that you don't see, because it's not in your, you know, in your area or whatever. But always bring them in, bring your worst enemy in right beside you, because once you convert them, they become the best supporters that you could possibly imagine. So that's the kind of stuff that we've been doing for a long, long time. And it's very similar to what you're talking about, but just in a different kind of context. And the other thing I was thinking, we've always done everything, build the relationship first. Just build that relationship, because if you've got the relationship with the person as a human being, you know, spend a lot of time on that, because then even when they come out with something that you might find offensive or you might not agree with, you still look at the human being. So the person is still a decent person, you know, decent or not, it doesn't matter, but you have that relationship. So it just changes things.
Brilliant. Yeah, great. Well, this is what we've been experiencing. I didn't know that. It's kind of because you're obviously highly trained and you've been doing that as a career. So it's quite encouraging that we seem to have, that we're doing something that you agree with, and you're someone who's really experienced in it. So that's cool. But yeah, that's the rewards are obvious and immediate. I mean, you should see the face of this. You know, he's a classic sort of Freemason, extreme right-wing, elderly middle-class bloke. And we listened to him completely, and it's freaked him out. He's a convert. It's amazing, man. And we're learning loads from the guy, right? And he's changing his opinions. He was a climate change denier. You know, rather than us lecturing him, you know, over time, as you say, Caroline, developing a relationship with this bloke, right? He's like, no, he's gone, oh, I got that wrong, you know, and it's really cool. It's really cool to watch. And we're going to have to do this, folks. You know, you all know this, right? Most of you seem to have an XR background, and Alana, I know you're on, I think you said you were on the bridges. So we did the first ever People's Assembly on Westminster Bridge, and it was a real honour to have facilitated that first assembly. But XR is right. Climate and ecological breakdown is real, and it's here, and a lot of it is baked in. So what's important is, you know, this kind of community work, in a sense, is preparing us for the fact that huge changes are going to be laid on us anyway. And there's a silver lining in this, and it's not just a pep talk, right? The life that we're going to need to transition to, it really does seem a lot better than the one we're stuck in now, okay? That's the facts, all right? The second biggest killer in this country is loneliness. If you build community, man, that loneliness is gone, you know? Your food will come from within 30 miles of where you live. So many illnesses are caused by our completely stupid, crazy diet. Community businesses, local community business, they're going to thrive, you know, because it's going to be all about how the community supports the community. So they're going to thrive, you know, local business people, what's called community wealth building, you know. There are all these changes that are going to be necessary, but the argument is that they're better than this neoliberal nightmare that we're stuck in. If you watch the social media dilemma, You know, if you watch that program, there's this awful graph halfway through that shows suicides amongst under 10s from when smartphones got invented, right? Suicides for under 10s. So society as it is right now, it's a pretty miserable place. And what we're moving to is simpler, but a lot of us are pretty clear to us it's a lot better than what we're in right now, you know. So that's worth bearing in mind, you know. It's like, yeah, there's going to be huge changes, but if we get this right and if your community is working together, it's arguably a better life, you know. I mean, I'll leave you on this story. So when we did one of our community meetings and we put a manifesto on the wall and everyone went round looking at the manifesto, and the manifesto had been basically sort of crowdsourced from the assemblies, yeah. And then we were talking about this one on the wall, and on the wall we were saying, you know, what we can imagine a street in where we live in North Devon, right? What a street of the future, a Torridge Common Ground street. What does it look like? And we talk about, you know, the fact that, you know, there's one lawnmower in the street, all right? We share our tools. What's the point of everyone having a bloody lawnmower? You share your tools. You have 2 coffee mornings a week or 3 coffee mornings a week so that you look after the people who are living on their own. You know, your neighbours grow food. We all grow food and we share food, you know. So we're sort of describing this street in the future. And this elderly man put his finger up and he started crying as he spoke. You've just described my childhood. And in my lifetime, I've seen a beautiful, idyllic, simple, lovely life disappear. You know, when I was a kid, Mr. Parker next door grew the rhubarb, Dad grew the runner beans, Mrs. Brady at the end of the street, an elderly widow, we'd all be down there, coffee morning, twice a week with her. We all played together. You know, you just described my youth and it was beautiful. And I'll do anything for that to come back. It was an amazing thing, right? Very emotional. But really, it is a simpler life, but it's a better life, right? You know, our values have been thrown a bit off kilter by Angry Birds and stuff like that. Okay, everyone keeps freezing. Jess, you've got to guide me. What's happening now?
Everyone's smiling a lot. Yeah, so that's all amazing. Thank you. I wondered if maybe, I don't know about everyone else, I don't know whether people just might want to say a few words before we go. I know that, yeah, I would really like to just share something, but yeah, Dave has a point, and then maybe we could just do a quick go around just for like, yeah, a minute each before we kind of close off. Does that sound okay? Cool. So we'll go to Dave, and then if you want to check out at the same time, maybe a message.
Sure. Okay, it was a question rather than a point, really. I'm hearing lots of different, you know, names like Extinction Rebellion, Trust the People, Torridge Common Ground, Independence of Room. Is it important that we all have our own one separate name, or should one be trying, you know, like Trust the People, to me sounded like, oh, that sounds really good. And so if I were to do something, should I be sort of saying, whatever it is, that, you know, the Hertford Independent, something like that, a Trust the People initiative? You know, should we be trying to build up as a sort of, sorry about the word, but like sub brand or something of Trust the People is something that people around the country start to hear more of, or is it bad to have a badge, as it were?
That's a really good question. Personally, I think that it would be really good to start using Trust the People. You know, so Hertford, you know, independent candidate for Hertford, Trust the People, you know. But really, it's up to you, Neil and Jess. You're much closer to the movement. What would you suggest?
Neil, do you want to speak to that?
Dave, I'd say there's a difference between Trust the People with capital letters and Trust the People without. And I think what Jamie was talking about there is something that will resonate wherever you are. which is that I want to listen, I want to trust the people, and so on. Trust the people with capital letters may sound like a brand, and I don't think that's necessarily going to help in your hyper-local community. That's just my thought.
Yeah, actually, Dave, now think about it, quite a big part of us all becoming a gang was, what should we call ourselves, and what's our logo? And that actually that really got us going, man. We ended up with an absolutely cracking logo, and yeah, so it took quite a while, and we ended up with Torridge Common Ground. So I like what Neil is saying, but I also would recommend that process of when you start getting your gang together. You know, that's quite a good exercise. You know, what are we called? And that says a lot. What's our logo? You know, the logo captures what we're about. You know.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Has anybody else got anything to say on that, or do you want me just to check out?
I'd just quickly add something. I'll put it into chat, but I would, if you haven't all seen this, you all need to watch Operation Jackson, Mississippi. So there is a group in Mississippi who are just way ahead of everybody, and my friends made a film about them. So if you just put in Cooperation Jackson, Mississippi, and it's made by Real News, his name's Sean, and he went all the way over there, and they're really inspiring. All right, yes, maybe if you go for checking out, Dave, if that's okay. Jess, should we do that? Yep, okay.
Well, thank you ever so much. I'm incredibly glad that I did make it on time and make the time to be here, even though I was with my camera switched off a lot of the time. I was listening carefully, and I've really enjoyed it and found it inspirational. So just thanks very much, and thanks for all the tips and notes. I've been writing stuff down throughout. Thank you. So I'll pass on to Bess.
Hi, I echo that. It was just, I mean, it was inspirational, and I'm just sitting there thinking, wow. Do you know what? I'm thinking? I'm thinking, give me a year. I want to be able to say that. Yeah, I want to be able to say things like you've just said.
Wicked.
Oh, and I'll pass on to Diana.
Diana, you're on mute.
Am I okay now?
You're totally cool, yeah.
Yeah, I was visualizing what you were saying and putting it in our local context. And it's been so useful and so inspiring. And thank you very, very much.
Cool.
Yeah.
So welcome. Who do you want to pass it to, Diana?
Dave. Oh no, Dave's been. Jess.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think Neil's tires pumped up analogy is like really relevant to what I feel. I felt actually really disheartened last year. I was trying to do like assemblies in my local area in Northern Forest, and I don't know, it was just really difficult actually. Obviously lots of common traps like usual suspects turning up, numbers decreasing every assembly. I was just getting so fed up, and I was like kind of wanting to give up at the end of last year, and I've just been reflecting a lot on the experience since then. And now I've come to this, I feel like really fired up to just like go at it again and to kind of like revamp the whole thing and to just like make it happen. And I really needed this so much. So thank you. Yeah, rebrand it'll be great. I'll pass to Alana.
Yeah, just thank you. I'm really nervous to like facilitate or hold a people's assembly or anything similar to that in my community. My community is really small, so I'm just worried if anyone would show up anyway. But yeah, inspiring. So I will have to give it a go and be very nervous doing it. So I'll pass to Luke.
I loved it, Jamie. Thank you so much. Seems like you've really just got this in your soul, and it just beams out, and it's like a vision that I really connect to and feel inspired to start bringing more into the world. Thank you for sharing with us today. Carolyn.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. Echo all of that. I was just kind of thinking as you were speaking, because I lived in this town in Belgium where a very similar thing happened 15, 16, 17 years ago, where it was done through the pubs. So the group of people got together and they just said, we just cannot stand this anymore. And there was a particular pub, but there was a lot of music, a lot of musicians, a lot of kind of alternative people and scientists and lawyers and all sorts, you know, a real mishmash of community. And they managed to overthrow the local council, the whole council actually, but especially the Burgomaestre, who'd been in power for like 15 years. So it was a big deal. And the energy and the excitement and the commitment from the whole community at that point was absolutely fantastic. And they held a big party and it was wonderful. But things didn't stay like that. And it's such a shame. And I think probably what happened was they stopped listening to people. Yeah. So they weren't running those kind of assemblies. As I'm thinking, you know, now listening to you, they didn't continue with that same engagement. Yeah. And that, I guess, is, you know, a risk if you don't keep putting the energy into it. So, yeah, thanks. Thanks very much. And I'll pass it on to Patricia.
Good. Okay, thank you, Jamie. I was really inspired by your enthusiasm, and yeah, it's enthused me too. And yeah, thank you very much for the talk. But I'd like to find out a little bit more about, is it Anthea Lee, the lady we were talking about?
Yeah, Panthea Lee.
Panthea Lee.
Yeah,
yeah. I'd like to look her up. And
she's going to blow your head, I tell you, Patricia. She's amazing. I got in touch with her and met with her in a week, and she's working with me on a global assembly right now, and she's just on fire. Read anything she writes, but particularly this one that she wrote about Capitol Hill. It's a big deal.
Okay, I'll look that up. Thank you very much. You've really enthused me. Cheers. Sure, I'll pass on to who hasn't been yet?
Debs.
Thank you.
And Ian, I think, yeah.
Thank you for tonight. It's been really inspiring, and I've been sat here really quiet, which is like quite unusual for me. Probably tired, but I'm like trying to like work out in my head how to fit this in with the climate emergency centres and that, which it's a possible goer. Like, and I was like looking at the same idea, like using a pub, like, because there's lots of closed ones at the moment, especially like where I live, that like every other building's empty and stuff like that. So yeah, it's like, but could we use this model to like then work out what people like actually want in them buildings, like instead of being like forced like things on them, find out what they actually want to see in these buildings. Like one could be a crash and one could be something like, I don't know. I'm really tired tonight, so I apologise and leave it with that.
That's great. Have you come across Phoenix yet, Debs?
Yeah. Well, I joined Phoenix like each Thursday, like and stuff. So it was Ruth really who sent me this way.
Yeah. All right, cool. So Phoenix he'd agree with you. Yeah. What you want to do is, there's going to be when kind of lockdown ends and stuff, loads of empty properties are going to be around, and what we do with them, it should be up to the community. And it's great because if you involve the community in those decisions, they own it. They take it really seriously. It gets looked after, that's what makes the difference, right? So it's a really cool thing to be doing. Alana, just find good buddies to do it with. Always have at least 2 facilitators. Never do it on your own. And if it's frightening, but you go through it, you feel bloody amazing afterwards, mate. And there's no stopping you, I guarantee. Always do it with buddies. Keep a gang. Luke, really good luck with the XR work that you guys are going to be doing. See what's been happening with XR Australia. They've just done a week of actions, just mind-blowing, really creative, yeah? But good luck with that. Much respect and keep it lit. Thanks also, Caroline, for sharing what you were talking about, how it worked in Belgium. So that's what happened in Frome. They met in the pub and they went, we could do better than these clowns. And they took it over, right? That's really the attitude, But you need to do it in a way where it's not just one group or one social group. It's got to be everybody. You've got to do it in a way where everyone feels that they can get on board, because it's what you want is in a movement is for the public to go, she's me, or that's me. Yeah, they feel like you're part, you're their family, right? Rather than some pontificating, overeducated person telling everyone what to think. Brilliant. Well, look, folks, I started at 7 o'clock this morning. It's 8:30. I'm going to tune out. It's been an absolute honour, and keep it lit. Yeah, it's fantastic work. Jess and Neil knows how to get hold of me. Any more questions that you come up with, they'll throw it my way. I'm very much there for you. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
You're welcome. We're all crew. Keep it lit, you fucking diamonds.
Oh, thank you, everyone. I said to Diana that I would stay on just to chat a bit more.